What's going on, guys? Bexio back, and today we got a brand new video looking at things happening globally, financial problems happening globally, protests against governments for being corrupt, and bank failures going on in China being the big topic. We all know bank failures in the US in 2007, 2008 was major problems and had major ripples across the globe. So bank failures in China could have the same effects. We can see right here in this tweet, uh, looking at protesters protesting this bank that they can't get their money out of. Basically, the bank froze withdrawals. We've been hearing a lot of stories about that in crypto exchange world, but now hitting the real world in China with big banks. You can see this talks right here saying this is huge. Don't know how this will end. Henan Bank is not the only one that is having problems with liquidity. All four Chinese banks are having the same issue. Some depositors found they can save and cannot withdraw money from their bank cards. So, massive problems. Bank failures are a massive problem. When you have runs on the bank and you can't let people get their money back out, you see what happens. People protest, people start to get violent. And this is in the China world with social credit scores, which no one seems to be caring about right now. And there are some quotes from Chinese protesters who were shocked at the way the government responded to them, responded to what's going on with the banks and just things going on in general. And the first one here started saying, I did not expect them to be so violent and shameless this time. There was no communication, no warning before they brutally dispersed us. Another one says, why would government employees beat us up? We're only ordinary people asking for our deposits back. We did nothing wrong. Not wrong there. People just want to get their money. When the bank can't do that, you actually have major problems. And again, being unemployed, all I can live on is my past savings, but I can't even do that now. How am I supposed to support my family? And finally, the incident completely overturned my perception of the government. I've lived all my life placing so much faith in the government. After today, I'll never trust them again. So you can see kind of the narrative shifting. China losing control, and the authoritarian government here only works as long as people are happy and can be sustain themselves. But when you have major bank failures and problems, the ripple effects start to show themselves and you actually get into major problems. And right now we're seeing that play out, and it's a wonder to see if Chinese banks will have similar effects as something like US banks did in the past. And even if China will bail out the banks and see if they'll actually make them solvent so that they don't have these collapses, it's all up in the air. What will China do? How will it respond? And how will it affect the world? We can see even more protests just going around on across the world. Sri Lanka, the president quit after the palace was stormed by angry protesters. People around the world in many countries are protesting and complaining about corrupt governments. And I mean, they're probably not too far off. And even in Sri Lanka here, they got into the president's house, I think, and lit it on fire. So things are getting pretty heated. And a lot of people across the globe unhappy. The cost of living, inflation, things just going through the roof. And obviously, when you can't afford to buy basic necessities, people start to get unrest. And another bigger problem with all of this is how it'll affect kind of markets and investing, because obviously global turmoil is not good for markets, and banks collapsing, not good for markets, especially in something like China, where China makes everything. They literally make everything. Everything, 90% of the things in the world have made in China on them. So, when you look at the markets, they're kind of shrinking. They're not in the greatest spots. We see this VC dollars. So this is private equity type stuff. And we can see the kind of big moves up from 2020 into 2021. And we start 2022 and it starts dropping, and it's continued this downward drop, and the year over year change down 27% and quarter over quarter about the same. So money flowing and investments not really flowing. So these kind of businesses, building a business, not easy right now. Sustaining a business, not easy right now. Investing money, not easy, because everything just seems to go down right now. So it's something where maybe through things going on in the world and unrest, that the Fed might have to turn. And if the Fed turns, it can kind of prop up and send stocks and assets flying again, because they'll go to quantitative easing. But we know the Fed right here is very concerned about the dollar, make sure the dollar stays strong in the world and stays as the reserve currency. Like it says, the Fed may pretend it doesn't care about stonks, but it will care about the dollar. I mean, they probably care about both, but you can see kind of this is the DXY. So after all these crises, you have rallies up into a crisis, and then the dollar kind of falls as things start to go up in value, assets start to inflate, easing starts, and you get tightening to a another crisis, fall, tightening, easing, tightening, easing, tightening. You kind of go through these cycles, and right now we have this tightening where we have over earning, inflation, recession, which could be another breaking point where things get so bad you have to start easing and you have to let dollars flood the system and world, because that's the biggest export for the United States is dollars, exporting dollars. And we have a lot of dollar denominated debt in the world. If countries can't get dollars and they can't pay their debt, then we have big defaults and big problems. So we'll see what happens with Chinese banks kind of having a bank run and going under potentially, see if the Chinese government bails them out, and if this will have ripple effects like 2007 did with Lehman Brothers and US banks having trouble. So hopefully we don't see something major happening on like a global stage. And but it is China, so they could let the banks fall and say, look how bad capitalism is, and this is why you need the government or something. But also have protesters who are not happy at all with what the government's doing and actually fighting against the government, saying they can never trust them again. So lots and lots of stuff going on. No one could have ever predicted this was going to happen, and no one can predict how it's going to end. But hopefully the things just start to settle themselves and nothing can actually explode and break, because that's the last thing we need after all this crazy stuff going on, is something financially to break and just screw over a bunch of people. That's going to do it for this video, guys. As always, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and I'll see you guys in my next video.